Scrooge. He has just come from the funeral of his longtime business partner and only friend, Jacob Marley. However, he is not sad, because in order to be sad, one must first have the capacity to be happy. It was Christmas Eve, and the sound of carollers echoed throughout the cobbled streets of London. "Fools," growled Ebenezer Scrooge, as he said. Suddenly, the office door burst open, and Scrooge's nephew Fred cried out, "Merry Christmas, Uncle!" Fred removed his hat and took a resolute step toward Ebenezer. Christmas is a time of kindness, charity, and forgiveness. A time when men and women open up. Ebenezer took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers and beguiled the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to bed. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner. He took off his coat, put on his dressing gown and slippers, and his nightcap, and sat down before the... Ebenezer screamed with fright as he leapt to his feet and stumbled back toward the fire, knocking over his wooden chair with a crash. "You're not real! You're not real!" Ebenezer screamed. The ghost pointed up. When Scrooge awoke, he lay for a moment with his eyes closed, hoping his interaction with Jacob Marley had all been just a dream. Yes, just a terrible dream, he whispered to himself. But when Scrooge opened his eyes, he was standing before a brick warehouse with the spirit at his side. "Do you know this place?" the spirit asked Scrooge. "Of course. This is the very place where I was in a..." Before Scrooge could finish his sentence, he was transported to the ballroom. The music of the fiddler, the cracking fire, When Scrooge opened his eyes, he was no longer in the empty warehouse. He was back in his own bed, the heavy covers pulled up to his chin. He was tempted to drift back to sleep and wish the whole scene away as dream, but he knew that... Standing in the cramped kitchen with the giant, Scrooge could feel the excitement of Christmas. The Cratchit children seemed to be everywhere all at once. "Spirit," said Scrooge intently, "tell me if Tiny Tim will live." "I see a vacant seat," replied the ghost, "in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch." The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came, Scrooge bent. With a sweep of the spirit's arm, Scrooge found he was standing once again in Bob Cratchit's living room. Mrs. Cratchit and her children were huddled by the fire. Scrooge was brought so low by the thought of Tiny Tim's death that he hardly noticed he had been transported to a solemn graveyard. It took a biting wind to bring Scrooge out of his stupor. He shuddered as he took in the landscape around him. When Scrooge awoke, he was clinging to his bedpost, sobbing. "What is this?" he exclaimed, wiping tears from his eyes. "I am home. I am alive." Scrooge gave 3 hard raps on the door of the Cratchits, doing his best to look stern as Bob answered. Scrooge was better than his word when it came to keeping Christmas in his heart always. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became...